Think of awkward as in like you're that programmer in your garage typing away
with the black hood,
with no friends.
Computer science because of the high-paying salary. 3, 2, 1.
I enjoy computer science. Like, I feel I would be dumb if you didn't and you were in this field. But like, I definitely chose it because I want to kind of like retire early and basically focus on other things that I value, like art or music or that kind of stuff. And you know, a degree in computer science is the most, I guess, effective way to get to that state.
So I slightly disagree because, not to say that it wasn't a factor, because that is something you always consider when you're considering a new career or what major to get into in college, but it was not the primary thing that I looked into. I took programming from a very young age and I was very passionate about it. It was also one of the few things I was good at, and it really made me feel like I was a creative problem solver and that I could do a lot of different things, and I thought the possibilities were almost endless.
Tech people are awkward. 3, 2, 1.
One thing I found out at work is when you work with product managers, engineers, there's definitely a wide variety of personalities, and I don't think everyone is awkward. To say I met some of my best friends here, and some of them are very outgoing, some of them are more kept to themselves. But I would say that's in every kind of major, but the notion is that everyone's awkward in CS. I think that's not true, and if you come to work, you'll find people with all kind of different personalities.
My question also, I guess, is being awkward a negative trait? Like, I would say not always, actually. Like, I don't know. Does anyone?
I think people think of awkward as in like you're that programmer in your garage typing away
with the black hood,
with no friends.
Yeah.
But I think those people do exist, but also just it's not a bad thing to be awkward. You could have a very creative mind, you could be artistic, but just not be able to connect with other people easily. But it's definitely not a negative thing.
It might also be because like the different situations that we're in, like maybe as software engineers we're used to certain scenarios, and business majors are used to different scenarios. And so we're awkward when we are not in those situations. And it just happens to be that like when we think of awkwardness, we think of people at parties, right? And that might not be because we're awkward, it's just we are not used to it.
Try to say we don't get invited to parties.
Speak for yourself.
It's a different sort of party.
No, I know what you mean.
To excel in computer science, you have to be good at math. 3, 2, 1.
I think math is pretty important for developing problem-solving skills, and I think that's really important in computer science, and so practicing math a lot helps computer science a lot.
I'm in between just because I think it's domain-based. I think if you're into a work where you need a lot of math, such as AI and ML, you might need a lot of math, but if you just want to be just a full-stack engineer, you could pick up these things on the way, and you don't really need to have a big math background coming into the job.
I feel like computer science is this interesting area where it is like, in a way, an art and a science, because it does allow a lot of creativity, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of the like foundations of mathematics, like good problem-solving skills and logic, are really useful skills to excel at computer science. I think there are also people who are very good at computer science that maybe don't have strong math skills, so it's not that you need strong math skills, but I think that it definitely helps you excel faster.
I have felt discriminated against in the classroom or while working with others in tech. 3, 2, 1.
I slightly agree because sometimes when you just enter the tech field, there is an expectation for you to be a really high performer, and it takes a while for you to get there, and sometimes it could be that your team's expecting you to work at such a high level that you might feel, you're not part of the team. You could feel a little bit of discrimination, but that's with time, it could go away.
I actually agree with that. I interpreted the question in a different way. I thought about being racially discriminated against in terms of getting a job. I didn't personally feel that, but it's probably because I'm an Asian male, so my perspective might be a little bit different.
Yeah, I came at it with my gender in mind, because I have definitely heard discouraging comments, not directed towards me, but directed towards my gender, regarding math, computer science, and just fake facts that people spout about how women are just not good at math, they're not good at computer science. And it's very discouraging to hear, but the reason why I was in slightly agree and not strongly agree is because I've had totally different experiences in school and then out of school. Outside of school, I joined a really great team, and so this was not a problem at all. But in school, I have definitely heard things from my peers.
So an interesting example of, a lot of times people can come across unconscious bias. It's not like people standing there saying you're not a good programmer because you are X. That is almost never something you're going to encounter in the real world. There's way more nuance. But just to give sort of a quick example, the company that I work for has a policy of office sharing, and that similar genders will share offices, so men with men and women with women. And in my team, there were 3 offices that had 1 woman, 1 man, and 1 man. And they were going to get converted into shared office spaces. So I got moved into the office with the 1 other woman, so that left 2 of the male offices waiting a partner. And my team was hiring for 2 positions at that point. And my manager had said, I'm going to move you into the other woman's office, and then the 2 new hires are going to move into the other 2 open spaces. And the kind of implication of that is that he expected to hire 2 male engineers to go into those 2 office spaces because of the policy that my company has of pairing men with men and women with women. And again, it's not an explicit bias. It's very unconscious. I didn't even realize what he had implied until a week later when I was just kind of had a stray thought about it. So a lot of stuff like that can come out.
I feel like another nuanced way that I see this too is just through the pronouns that people choose to use when they're talking about certain things. I feel like more often than not in a tech space, male pronouns are used when describing I as an engineer am doing this. And I remember when I was reading Cracking the Coding interview, and the author is female, but then they all use she, her pronouns. And when I first read that, I was kind of startled because I was just not used to feeling like I could occupy that space just because of the language that's usually used. So yeah, I feel like I haven't faced very explicit discrimination. It's been just more implicit, feeling do I belong, or what are the reactions of my teammates or the people around me in what I do on the job or at school. So yeah.
That's part of it that you talked about how everybody else interacts and talks about this, I think is a really big point on how we approach it. So it's pretty common that people know that there's a problem in this field, but in real life, when you actually go to talk to someone, oftentimes it gets shut down almost immediately not in a mean way, but more in a, no, it could not have been, or no, that's not why. And the truth of it is because it's subtle, because it's not directed towards you, you could never really know. But the problem is that if this is happening and there's a pattern of it, being able to talk about it, talk about solutions to it, rather than just saying, I'm wrong every time, it's important to think about a solution with other people instead of just looking inwards and saying, I have to deal with it myself.
I think also another important call out to make too is that I feel like I have experienced less discrimination because I am a white woman. Because in tech, women are a minority when we're just looking at across the gender spectrum, but in terms of racial or ethnic minorities, it's primarily Latino and Black minorities who are represented the very least in the tech industry, at least in the United States. And so I which is hard for me to speak to because I don't have experience in that space, but I do see people around me who look like me, even if it's a man and not a woman. And so I also feel like I haven't been discriminated against as much for that reason.
I spend all day and night in front of a computer. 3, 2, 1.
So I do spend, obviously my job is almost entirely in front of the computer. And for a long time, I was spending my whole life in front of the computer, but as I think a lot of people here might feel the same way, it was because I'd come home and I'd watch shows on my computer. I'd, check my email, be on Facebook, not because I was programming, but actually recently my eyesight has degraded significantly and I'm rather young. So I decided to make a very concentrated effort that in my free time, I would spend as little time on the computer as possible. So whether that's reading physical books or reading off of a Kindle or going out to see people or going outside and hiking or just sitting outside, that has been very helpful for me. But save your eyesight, kids. Maybe don't spend the whole time on the computer.
Because at work, I don't feel like I'm actually spending too much time on my computer because there's a bunch of meetings every day. I'm taking an hour-long lunch break, and then it's but when I'm going home, I'm always, talking to my friends online, basically, and so I don't know. It's definitely kind of a 50-50 thing, so that's why I kind of stuck in neutral.
I think after a while, you just get used to having a screen in front of your face that sometimes even when I'm just having food, it feels weird not to just have anything on. So I'll kind of even get my food and just run YouTube or some show. But I feel like this happens just in your mind. You don't think about it much. And I feel like at night when I go to sleep, you're like, wow, it feels nice just not to have any screen time on you. But I think it's up to my choice that I do this. So.
Yeah, I never really think about it either. It's become more of a habit than anything. And I never really thought that it was a bad thing to be in front of a screen all day. I know my parents would very much disagree, but my dad was the one that gave me my computer, so I blame him.
Back-end engineering is harder than front-end engineering. 3, 2, 1.
I worked for front-end co-op engineer. So during those 6 months, I thought it was going to be very light work. Turned out to be a lot of hard work just because you're kind of responsible for the front-end experience, something that the user sees every day. And it's a very hard work because if something goes wrong, it's visibly there instantly. Versus back-end, you could take a while to find if things are going wrong. But if there's something wrong on the front end, people will see it immediately and it spreads much quicker. And I think it's more of a sensitive work than back end.
I'm strongly disagree because I feel like they have different challenges. So I disagree with the statement that back end is harder than front end because I feel like they have completely different challenges. And so to compare them and say that one is more difficult than the other is not a fair comparison.
I've worked in both. I did an internship a couple of years back where I was mainly working in Drupal. So maybe it's just the fact that I was working in Drupal was the issue there. But I feel like front end moves a lot faster than back end does. And so the technologies you're going to be using in back end are not going to be changing from year to year, whereas I feel like with whatever's popular in JavaScript or using React or whatever, I feel like that's going to be changing a lot more frequently because I don't know, it's a lot more consumer facing. So I feel like in a sense front end's much more difficult, and I don't really want to deal with having to learn something new every year for programming aspects. But.
HTML, CSS, JavaScript, it's not real programming, but something that I heard from a mentor once was that with backend engineering, for example, if you're a Java developer, you control your server, you control what version of Java you're running, but if you're writing in JavaScript, for the client side, you have no control over what browser they're using, you have no control over what version of JavaScript they're running, and so there's a lot of those nuances that make front end very difficult.
I am happy with my career. 3, 2, 1.
I'm leaving room to grow. Like, I'm happy where I am, but I'm still in the process of goal setting right now. So I feel like I need to get a bit of clarity still on where I want to go and where I want to grow. So that's why I'm here right now. Maybe soon I'll move up.
Hello world, and I just want to say thank you for watching. Also want to give a shout out to everyone in this video. So just want to say thank you for that. So this video was also inspired by Uncut, just to put that out there. I love Uncut. I love Jubilee. That's the name of the channel. I find the videos very interesting. So yeah, I'll definitely leave links to their channel and in the description box and somewhere on the screen. So thank you so much and have a great day.